Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is April 18th, 2024, and UEFA have issued several fines against FC Barcelona. Also, the club are set to hold a crucial meeting next week with Xavi Hernandez to determine the future of the Barcelona manager. And finally, Ronald Araujo has responded to Ilkay Gundogan's statements. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and before we begin with the news, just a quick reminder to make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. All of this helps the channel continue to grow. Also, if you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure you hit the kit bag, and if you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure you head to Bet Us. Both links for kit bag and Bet Us are down below in the description. Now, I'll begin with the news that UEFA have issued several fines against FC Barcelona, totaling 32,000 euros. Now, these fines are a result of the Barcelona fans' behavior during the first leg of the quarterfinals of the Champions League, which was held in Paris. And UEFA have issued a total of 32 fines, the first one worth 2,000 euros for Barcelona fans setting off fireworks. The second fine is worth 5,000 euros for destruction of property. And both fines Barcelona have to pay to PSG, and they have a total of 30 days to make that 7,000 euro payment to the Parisian side. Now, the third fine is the biggest one, which is 25,000 euros against Barcelona, and also a ban for Barcelona to sell away match tickets to their fans for a total of one match in European competition. So the next European competition that Barcelona will play away, Barcelona will not be able to sell tickets to their fans, so they attend that away match. And this was as a result of the Nazi salutes that some of the Barcelona fans did in the stands, which some of them were arrested for by the French police. And this is unfortunate because now Barcelona and even Barcelona fans who will be unable to travel to the next Barcelona away match in European competitions will have to pay the price for the action of a few idiotic fans that don't know how to behave in public. And speaking of matches, Barcelona have a huge upcoming match, which is El Clásico match on Saturday, where Barcelona will be traveling to the Santiago Bernabeu in order to face off against Real Madrid in hopes to cut the distance between us and first place from 8 down to 5 points. Now, speaking of El Clásico match, Xavi Hernandez has decided to cancel training for the team today in order to allow the players to clear their heads after that disappointing result in the Champions League, which I am very curious to hear your thoughts about. Do you think that was the right decision? Let me know down below. Now, speaking of El Clásico match, the CTA, or the Committee of Referee, have announced who the referee will be for Saturday's match, and it will be no other than Cesar Sotogrado, a very controversial referee, in favor of Real Madrid, and someone who has had many controversial decisions against Barcelona. So we definitely have an uphill battle on Saturday, but hopefully Barcelona will emerge victorious. And speaking of Xavi Hernandez, Barcelona will hold a crucial and key meeting with the Barcelona coach next week in order to determine his future. Now, we all know Xavi Hernandez resigned back in January and announced that he will be leaving the club at the end of the season. But despite his decision, some people within the club like Joan Laporta and Rafa Yuste have insisted that they want to convince the manager to stay. But that has not been the sentiment of everyone inside the board of directors, with many people inside Barcelona believing that Xavi Hernandez's chapter is over and that we should start looking for a new coach. Now, Joan Laporta and Rafa Yuste were hoping to wait until the end of the season to see how things end up and then decide on whether to convince Xavi to stay or try to look for another manager. However, after the Champions League debacle, those people within the club who are already opposed to the continuity of Xavi Hernandez decided to press Laporta in order to hold this meeting next week, because they saw what I talked about in my post-match live analysis, which is that in the face of adversity, when Xavi Hernandez lost a player, he was incapable of providing a response, a tactical response to what was going on in the field. And then he got himself expelled, and those people who were against Xavi's continuity did not like that. and as such, they raised their voices and insisted that Joan Laporta and the board of directors need to figure out what the future of Xavi Hernandez will be, and as a result, the board of directors have decided to hold a key meeting with Xavi Hernandez next week after a Clásico match in order to have one final conversation with Xavi to see whether he wants to stay or not. And if he decides not to stay, then we should expect that Barcelona would start meeting after that in order to decide who will be Barcelona's next manager. Now, interestingly enough, the reporter Adrian Sanchez out in Barcelona has revealed who in the club prefers which coach to take the place of Xavi Hernandez. Now, as I reported in yesterday's podcast, Rafa Marquez has gained some ground because some people within the club believe that he should be the one to take over the place of Xavi, since he is doing a great job with Barca Athletic, and since they believe that he would continue giving opportunities to the youngsters like Xavi Hernandez has been doing. But now let's talk about who in the club prefers which manager, starting with Deco, who reportedly prefers Luis Enrique to be Barcelona's next manager, with his second option being Mikel Arteta. Now, those people in the sporting area are the ones who prefer Rafa Marquez to become the new coach. And finally, when it comes to Joan Laporta, his favorite option is still Xavi Hernandez to continue, with his second option being Luis Enrique. Now, given the landscape of the market where Luis Enrique is not going to be coming to Barcelona because he wants to finish his contract at PSG, and given that Mikel Arteta also wants to remain with Arsenal, it's reported that if Joan Laporta had to pick a coach tomorrow, he would pick Hansi Flick because he still believes in the German route, and because he believes, unlike Rafa Marquez, Hansi Flick could make Barcelona more competitive on the European stage. Now, despite all of this, there's no decision that has been made. We don't know yet who's going to be the Barcelona next manager. Barcelona are expected to hold several meetings in the upcoming weeks in order to decide who will take the place of Xavi Hernandez. Now, we will end today's video with the news that Ronald Araujo has replied to Ilkay Gundogan's statements. Now, as you might recall, I reported in yesterday's podcast that Ilkay Gundogan did have some statements to say after the PSG match, where he talked about the red card that Ronald Araujo had received, saying that a better option would have been to let Barcola go into the box and go 1v1 against Ter Stegen, giving Ter Stegen the opportunity to save the ball, and if not, even conceding a goal would have been better to being down a man. And well, now the Uruguayan captain has replied to those statements by saying, "I prefer to keep what I think to myself. I have codes and values that must be respected." So definitely an odd response by Ronald Araujo, and this is what I have to say about the whole topic. Araujo, we love you. We support you. You made a mistake. It happens. We still support you. We still think you are one of the best defenders in the whole world. However, I think you could have handled the situation a bit differently. Maybe just saying, "I made a mistake. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen again," would have been a better response, because after all, what Ilkay Gundogan said was true. Letting Barcola in would have been the better option. He could have gone one-to-one with Ter Stegen. Perhaps he could have saved us. In that case, no harm, no foul. Maybe Barcola could have missed. In that case, also no harm, no foul. Or maybe Barcola could have scored, but even in that case, it wouldn't have been too bad, because after all, it would have been drawn 1-1, and then Barcelona would have still had an advantage in the aggregate score. We still would have been up by 1 goal in the aggregate score, and would have had all 11 players there to fight for the remainder of the match and have a chance at qualifying to the semi-final. So after all, what Gundogan said was not anything outrageous. It was not controversial. It was the truth. I think Ronald Araujo could have handled it a better way, just saying, "Hey, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen again." And I personally know it's not going to happen again, because Araujo is an excellent defender. He rarely makes any kinds of mistakes. And in the Champions League, that was one of the very rare occasions where Ronald Araujo committed a mistake. But nonetheless, I am curious to hear what are you guys' thoughts about Ronald Araujo's response. So please let me know down below. Now, one thing that's very curious about the whole situation is that the locker room did not take it as an offense. It's reported that most of the people in the locker room agree with what Ilkay Gundogan had to say. So there is no rift in the locker room, despite what some media outlets are trying to portray. However, it is reported that Ilkay Gundogan's entourage and the player are reporting that the player was very surprised about the controversy that emerged after his words amongst the fans and amongst the public, not amongst the locker room, because according to Ilkay Gundogan's entourage, that's a cultural thing where in Germany, they're very blunt and upfront about things like that, where they go tell someone, "Hey, we love you, we support you, but this is what you did wrong. They're very upfront about that. They don't do it to humiliate the person. They don't do it to put that person down. They do it to support that person so they can help them grow and improve. And that's what Ilkay Gundogan was trying to do with his statements. So it's reported that the player was very surprised when he saw that a lot of controversy in social media, in the media, and amongst the public emerged out of this, because he was not trying to mean any harm. He was not trying to criticize Ronald Araujo. All he was doing was trying to, help the player learn from his mistake, which I think is the right thing to do. I think the right thing to do is to be self-critical, to try to learn from our mistakes so they don't happen again. And if they do happen again, to try to find a way on how to minimize the damage, because after all, that is how we grow and improve, rather than try to find the blame somewhere else. So that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a like. Also, I would like to invite all of you to please leave a comment down below, giving me all your thoughts and opinions about all the news that I share with you. And finally, I would like to invite all of you to please subscribe to the channel so you can stay current on all the latest news in regards to our beloved club, FC Barcelona. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And as always, Visca Barça.